What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode 4 of Lyon Live here in FM19. Today we are going to be kicking off the season, the first match at the very least, hopefully one or two more perhaps. We're going to be taking on Amiens in Ligue 1 today. Before I get into the match and the training and the episode as a whole, I just want to start by saying thank you so much for the support on this series so far. Really has been a bit of a trial into untested waters with this series, but so far the feedback has been superb. You guys have been loving it. The interaction has been really good in the comments, and well, it'd be great if we could get let's set a like total on today's video. Let's go for 250 likes in the first night of the video going up. Let's aim for that. If it does reach that, I will hopefully get an episode up over the weekend additionally for you guys. But yes, honestly, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You guys seem to really be enjoying this series, which is, well, making it even more enjoyable for me, and we're yet to even start the season. So with that in mind, that is going to be the main course of action today in terms of the headline event, but we have also got a game to play. For this game, we are at home against Amiens, so we are going to play our more attacking system. Anthony Lopez and Depay are going to be out for today's games. As a result, I think we'll play Cornet slightly out of position. I feel like Cornet is better than Terrier here. Is he better? Let's do a quick head-to-head comparison. See, Terrier can cut in on his stronger foot, but he's not as athletic, whereas Cornet is a little quicker. I actually think Terrier here might be the better option. Please, as well, how do I say Terrier's name? Because it's definitely not Terrier. That is 100% not how his name is pronounced. We do, however, quickly need to sort out the bench here. There's nothing too crazy, I think, going on here. Really, it's going to be about getting some of our better young prospects just, well, basically in contention for selection, and due to injuries, it kind of picks itself to an extent. Of course, last episode we left things off with a few transfer dealings that were falling through. I also asked about potential suggestions for a attacking midfielder. I don't think we're going to sign Martinez. He's not my kind of player, but I was lying in bed last night. This is what my life's come to. I was lying in bed last night thinking about attacking midfielders who could be quite good. And there's a name that, well, I remembered from last year, who I'm yet to actually see if he's any good, but I signed him last year at Sochaux, and he was like a top player for the whole series. He was absolutely insane value for money, and it's this guy, Francisco Trincao. I've seen him go to the Premier League in 1 or 2 save games. I don't know how much they're going to want for him first year of the window. I feel like we should just throw in a bid and see what they say. Last year you could get him for like a little over £1 million, and okay, it looks like it's going to be a similar thing here. I don't really want to pay that percentage of transfer clause, so I'm actually going to back out the deal. And then if we go back to him again, and this is just a little tip for you guys, if you don't want to have a sell-on clause in a player's deal, before you make your initial offer, just either add in percentage of profit or percentage of next sale, and then remove and exclude it, and then make an offer. Let's try 900k. Okay, 900k, I tell you what, he will be fantastic backup. It's an area where we need to back up. How does he compare, actually, to Marin? This would be an interesting comparison. He's debatably, well, he is almost certainly, current ability-wise, better than Marin. And he's not actually, well, he is a little bit older, I guess. But at the same time, he's not, old by any means. He's 18. So he could be a really good player. We'll wait for the scout report to come in as well. But given my previous experience with him and the fact he can play either wing naturally, he might be the problem solved along with Marin. In terms of longer-term backup, there was one other player who loads of people were suggesting in the comments I just promote to the first team, and it's this guy, Maxence Cacaret. That is almost certainly not how you say his name, but Maxi Boy here. He has insane potential, actually looks pretty good. I think with him, he's the kind of player who probably won't appear on the bench unless we have a few injuries, but I'd quite like him to be in the first team. So with that in mind, we'll move him to the first team, but then we'll make him available for the reserves just on an ongoing 60-minute basis. And yeah, we kind of have a team of sorts now. If we actually look at it here, this seems fairly well-rounded. Of course, we are missing a few players. Depay going to miss the first few months of the year with his torn hamstring. Really not ideal there. I'm hoping his physicals won't take a long-term tumble through that. Marçal here is also out. The Brazilian, he's out for 2 to 6 weeks. He will come in and be a very good backup left-back for us, to be fair. And Anthony Lopez is suspended for the first league game of the season. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go straight into the Amiens game, and then following that, we'll continue on with some transfer business. We might get to the Stade de Reims game. Okay, Trincao is not going to come. So my dream and my thought in my bed isn't actually that useful after all. But yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll do the Amiens game. We'll then sort out our training. We've got a little bit of transfer business almost certainly left to do here because of how short our pre-season was. And we do also need to sort out our individual player training. So, we move into untested waters here. I think this is the team we're going to have to go with. So, without our first choice goalkeeper, as a result, Matteo here is going to come in. He's pretty solid. At this level, he should do okay as a backup keeper for us. Our centre-backs, we're going to have Mendy at left-back, who I really, really like the look of, and Tete at right-back. Again, these two guys as a pair, very, very solid indeed. At centre-mid, two Brazilians. We're going to have Marcelo, and alongside him, we're going to have Wallace, who I'm actually not going to play as a ball-playing defender. We're going to just have him on centre-mid on defend. We're going to have Toussaint and Ndombele as a centre-mid pairing. Toussaint, that more defensively-minded player. Whereas on the other side of things, Ndombele, a very, very good box-to-box midfielder. The midfield trio, of course, we were without Depay, so Terrier is going to step up. We might be relying on him a little bit, depending on if we can get Gnabry in on loan from Bayern Munich. And then, well, the rest of the team here, Fekir at centre, attacking mid. We're going to start with him on attacking midfielder rather than advanced playmaker, although we may change things there. We're then going to have Bertrand Traoré playing as the inside forward on the right-hand side. And then Dembele, who of course is a new signing in real life, is going to be leading the line. So hopefully he is going to just hit the ground running and be a great goal scorer for us. On the bench, we've got options. Denea. He's a pretty good athletic kind of defender who can also play right back. Morel here can play left back if we need him to, as well as centre back. So both defensive players on the bench kind of cover all stops, I guess, as far as the back four go. Worth noting, I don't play with a goalkeeper on the bench in FM. I just don't think it's worth it for the amount of times where you need it. McTominay we've got in on loan. I like the look of this guy. He kind of ticks the box as a type of player we don't really have another player like, and he's very similar to Toussaint. Good defensively, quite good in the air, bit of steel perhaps in the midfield. Aouar here will definitely get game time throughout this year. Fantastic prospect, can play a wide array of positions, which is nice, but most of the time I think he will play centre mid for us. Similar story here for Cech, probably the go-to alternative to Ndombele in that box-to-box midfielder role in the team, that kind of more mobile of the two centre mids. Antonio Marin, just due to the injuries and such, is going to be on the bench today, a player with a hell of a lot of potential in FM this year, one of the best signings you can pick up. A bit of a bit mainstream as a choice, a bit of a go-to wonder kid. So if you're a bit of a football manager hipster who likes to sign unknown players, he might not be the man for you, but he does fit the bill in terms of what we need. And we also have Maxwell Cornet, who can double up as a striker, a very athletic player with some real potential as well, only 21 years old. So that's our matchday squad for today's game. Let's submit our team and go into this. We're going in with a little bit of, I guess, apprehension. I feel like there was transfer business that I would have liked to have got done that we just haven't got done yet. Obviously, I'm hoping that isn't going to be a long-term problem for us. But I do feel like our squad is still a very, very strong squad. Really, I'm extremely happy with the first team. It's more about just adding strength and depth in abundance and to a level that I'd be happy with. And whilst I'm not unhappy with it right now, given the money that we've got, given the kind of squad that we have, there is definitely room for improvement in that department. Anyway, let's get into today's game. We're already set up actually on key highlights and everything correct, which is good for us. We are going to be playing, in our white kit today. Not going to be an easy game for us against Amiens, but at home you'd expect us to get off to a flyer, and well, hopefully we can do it. Dembele, tight angle. I mean, 4 minutes gone. That's what we wanted. We are, of course, using free tactics, which I've never used before in terms of the free that we have set up for our team. We have this controlling system. We have a more pressing system. And then we obviously have the counter-attacking system. They're all completely untested. We'll be alternating between them all. There's going to be some that just maybe work right away. Some that I'm not so keen on, that we might not fall back on as regularly as the others that we use. But I feel like in the majority of games, we are probably going to fall into this system. It's a fairly, standard, I guess is the word. It's not particularly out of the ordinary 4-2-3-1 as Dembele through on goal again. Perhaps should have done a little bit better with that finish there. That was, I think, a clear-cut chance for us. Put it wide. Ndombele on a booking is a teeny tiny bit concerning. Almiron scoring for Monaco is slightly rubbing salt in the wound from last time out. Traoré, Ndombele on a booking. He can hit them. Unfortunately, Gerntner there, he can save them. And he has. He's tipped that one over. Got a set piece now. Can we make something happen from it? Fekir tries to get it to their Terrier. Now it's with Bertrand Traore. Fekir once more to Traore. Nice build-up play here. No end product though. They get the ball away. Ganso with it. And, Amiens live to fight another day. I didn't actually check where Amiens are predicted to finish. Obviously, with us being predicted to finish third, I expect us to do well. They are a team right down there in 18th, so I'm hoping we can beat them by a reasonable goal margin. So far, we've been by far and away the better team, and we have a chance here, maybe. Ndombele at the edge of the box to Traore, who hits it, tucks it away, and, well, maybe I didn't need to be so worried last episode. I feel like the stress of the live commentary, the pressure in terms of, trying to make some transfers happen, it was leaving me feeling a little, a little negative, a little bit glass half empty, I guess, rather than half full. But 27 minutes gone. Maybe I had no reason to be worried. Depay who? Memphis who? I really shouldn't be calling him Depay. I believe he likes to be called Memphis as his name. Okay, Traore's now injured. That might cause us some problems. Because that could, if that's a long-term injury, that could potentially be both of our wide kind of players out for a little while. It's a foot injury. A foot injury doesn't sound so serious as like a lower leg injury, but it's not exactly ideal. And well, with the exception of that injury, it had pretty much been an ideal half. In some ways, some of the shine's been taken off that first half performance by that injury. With Ndombele on a booking, I think I'm actually going to take him off at Aouar, just to give Aouar some game time. I expect that he will play a large amount of football this year, as Dembele has fouled. And with Ndombele on a booking, I feel like it's worth taking him off. We can, bring in Aouar, give him some minutes, get him a bit more familiar perhaps at playing that box-to-box midfielder role that he might need to play from time to time. And, we can take things from here as the ball gets whipped in, and it's the Terrier with the goal. Fekir, lovely set piece. It's just dawned on me we never set up our set piece takers. We will do that after this episode. Not after this episode, after this match. Normally I'd say after this episode, of course. Because we're live, I can just do it immediately and you guys can't complain. It's something that makes sense to show you. I will say, if I ever mention stuff like set pieces that I forget to do, remind me that I've not done them in the comments. I'm going to need that assistance. I am not the best person at remembering stuff sometimes. I'm going to throw that out there right now. So if I ever say I need to do something and then I don't do it, please do call me out on that. They've got a set piece. I'm not too worried. I'm going to make a change here. I'm going to move Martin Terrier into the striker position. And then we're going to take off Dembele and give a debut to Marin out on the left-hand side. Given the fact that Traore has gone off injured, Marin might have to come on in future games. It'd be good to give him a little bit of game time, slowly bed him into the first team, give him a little bit of that first team football. But to be honest, 3-0 here. Pretty perfect first performance. I wasn't sure if this system was going to work too well without a playmaker, but the fact they've had one shot all game and we've had a fair amount seems like largely positive stuff, at least for the first game. It's not going to be the hardest test of the year, but we've looked solid. And if we could get one more, it'd be fantastic. I don't think it's going to happen, but yes, 3-0 it finishes. Believe that puts us third in the league, which is the media expectation. So we're on course for expectations. We can end the series now happy. But yeah, good performance there. Bit of a stranglehold on that game. They really didn't do a great deal with it. And defensively, good to get a clean sheet, of course. Right, Bertrand Traore out for 3 to 4 weeks. That's not ideal. That does make me feel like we are going to need an attacking midfielder who can play on the left and right-hand side. If we just look at it here, you can see obviously Depay and Traore, you consider players who can give us good strength in depth there. Debatably, the two players who would start on either kind of wide midfielder position. With that injury now to Traore, Cornet is almost certainly going to have to play out on the right-hand side at least until we make a signing. And that does leave us really with Marin as the lone backup wide midfielder. And I like this guy and he has a lot of potential, but I don't necessarily think he's the player for us to rely on to fill that void in our team with the injuries we've currently got. Right, there's sort of our set pieces here. It actually looks like the set piece takers have already been set up for us. I'm not actually that unhappy with these here. We don't have like crazy free kick takers. You can see here in terms of free kick takers, it's Depay and Fekir who lead the way, and they are almost set up. Little pro tip for you. You can drag a player from the opposite side and he will just slot in. If you didn't know, you don't always have to drag them from the squad page here. So if you want to mirror a setup, you can just quickly drag the players. Didn't know about that until recently, so I feel like it's worth spreading that nugget of knowledge. In terms of routines, I'm not going to load in. I'm not someone who spends ages coming up with mental corner routines. I know some people who absolutely love to do them. What I will do, however, is actually load in the ones I've been using on the LAN save. There's nothing too crazy about these. I can talk you through the actual routine itself. But yeah, to be honest, the kind of routines as a whole is not something that I've invested a great deal of time into. It's something that I know people, perfect down to an art form to the stage where they can just, rely on their set pieces entirely. This set piece routine is one that I've used at LAN that's been very, very successful in that Let's Play. And it's pretty simple. We always aim for the far post where we have one of our best headerers. And that's the corner routine. I mean, there's a few other players who go forward, of course, but essentially the the corner taker just aims for the back post, and we always try and get one of our best players in the air at the back post. In this case, we've got Wallace, who's actually very, very good in the air and has good bravery as well, good strength. He's actually going to be really good at going for the ball forward. So yeah, we'll go with him, and then we just put a playmaker or whoever basically sat on the goalkeeper, but. It's not crazy. It's nothing revolutionary, but that's just kind of what I've used fairly frequently. As I said, there's some people who spend hundreds of hours, I imagine, doing the set pieces. It's something that you can definitely get down to an art form and, just completely abuse the crap out of, because there's just the marking on set pieces can sometimes be quite questionable, at least in the current patch. For me personally, that's just what I like to do. Anyway, before we continue forward, I'm going to do some training. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. We might sort out mentoring groups and stuff in the future. But what I would like to do is at least get players' position and duty training and their focus training sorted for pretty much the whole team here. I did a series last year with Socio. It was quite short-lived in truth. But as part of that, I did a series called The Academy. I'm going to be applying lots of the same stuff that I talked about here. So I don't want to talk about it for too long because long-time viewers will have seen it. But essentially, the way I like to focus my training is I will, generally speaking, train players in a role that suits, obviously, the system that we're playing. So, for example, for Ndombele, I'm almost certainly going to train him as a box-to-box midfielder. And then with the additional focus, we're going to look at covering one of his weaknesses. So, Ndombele, fantastic player, not so great going forward. So we're going to switch his focus to shooting here. The shooting additional focus, you can see the attributes highlighted with the bluer colour. So technique, long shots and finishing are the ones that are going to be addressed by this new additional focus. In previous years of FM, the additional focus wasn't as crazy as it once was now. Obviously, before it used to be you could just train a player in finishing, whereas now you have more, I guess, categorized forms of individual focus. In real life, you don't just go, right, we're going to teach you to dribble as your focus. No, you obviously train a player at maybe their attacking movement or their final third to improve those. As a result, there are some attributes which you can no longer directly impact through the additional focus. But for the most part, roles are the best way to get a lot out of a player. Marcelo here, he's 31, he's not going to improve a great deal. If he was a younger player, I might put an additional focus on his quickness, but 31 years old, he's not going to get much quicker as a centre-back. Wallace, on the other hand, perhaps an example where we could try this. A player of this age might be a little bit unhappy that I put his additional focus on quickness, but it is a bit of a gap in his game that I'd definitely like to solve. And unlike stuff like his concentration and decisions, I don't think we can really address that. I guess we could address his decisions through training defensive positioning, but he already has 15 marking and 15 positioning, although he could refine those further. You know what, I'm actually going to go with defensive positioning here, just because Wallace is 23. He's not going to get drastically quicker. Quickness is definitely something that I like in my centre-backs, but it's not the be-all or end-all. For wing-backs, if I had a 23-year-old wing-back with similar pace to Wallace, I might well focus on the pace then, because I think it's more important for that role. Here we've got Kenny Tete, very good player. Pretty good all-round, to be honest. I would kind of like him to improve his passing a little bit. His first touch could be a bit better. His technique and passing maybe a little lacking for a player who we're going to be looking for a lot going forward. Our wing-backs are going to be quite important with our system here. And that's going to be probably a similar story with Mendy as well. In terms of the role I train players in, it kind of depends on a few factors. Obviously, different roles have different, areas of focus. For example, a wing-back here is a little bit more complete in its training focus compared to, say, a full-back on attack. If we just compare some of the stuff that gets deselected and reselected. Actually, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe full-back on attack isn't as demanding. I didn't think it was. Okay, apparently full-back on attack needs more composure. With that in mind, actually, I might then train him to play full-back on attack instead. But it's not a great deal of difference, to be honest, between these two roles. In our actual system, we do play with wing-backs, and maybe it's just worth keeping him on wing-back. But you can see, actually, for Dubois, I set up his training in an earlier episode. We set up his quickness because he was lacking that pace, and I do like that in our full-backs. And, well, a perfect example, really, compared to Wallace. He is 23, but because he's a wing-back, I do value that pace, and I think it's worth trying to improve and eke out any droplets of improvement we can. Denayer here is an interesting one. He's kind of quite a ball-playing defender. He can play a variety of different positions. Given the fact that we've got quite good coverage, and this guy can play a variety of different positions reasonably well, I'm actually going to train him to play wing-back. Left-back, I'd like his position comfortability to go from convincing, or competent rather, to, well, accomplished. In doing that, he'd just be a really good option on the bench. I don't think Denayer here is ever going to be good enough, really, to be a starting centre-back for us, at least as long as we have Marcelo and Wallace. But in terms of a player on the bench, his kind of flexibility and his versatility is invaluable. So just making more of that is a big strength of his game. Training him to play left-back makes a lot of sense. In terms of additional focus, is there anything I would really like to work on with him? I could maybe train his attacking movement, but it's not something that I'm super fussed about. I have a lot of very good wing-backs who would probably play ahead of Denayer if we got an injury at wing-back longer term, but Denayer is just better suited to play on the bench, where obviously you can't select realistically a right wing-back and a left wing-back separately. I do really value, to be honest, full-backs who can play both sides. Morel here at 34 isn't going to improve a great deal, so for him, I'm just going to put him on central defender on defend. Nothing too crazy going on here. Marcel is a very, very good left-back. I like this guy a hell of a lot. We'll train him to play full-back on attack. Doesn't really have a gap in his game. He is a little older as well, so there's no point in setting a focus for him. Ferland Mendy, is there anything I want to focus on with him? Not really. Again, pretty well-rounded. His concentration isn't ideal, but there's an easy way to improve that. Toussaint, we are training, well, we're not training him at the moment, but we're playing him to play ball-winning midfielder on defend. Again, for this role, he's extremely well-suited to it. There's nothing that I'd drastically change with him. If I was going to be super picky, maybe we could improve his passing just a little. It's not essential for the role he has, but his technique and first touch are just nice attributes to have for a centre-mid. And it might mean slightly longer term, he might have a little bit more flexibility. But winning midfielder is a very kind of limited role. You don't really need that much ability to play there in terms of technically, where compared to other centre midfielder roles. But in our system, it is a passing system. It could be a little bit demanding. It'd be good, given the fact he's so young, to maybe try and make a little more of his technicals where we can. Anyway, we've got here Maxi Boy, young player. A lot of flexibility with this guy in terms of what we could do. He can play centre, defensive mid, centre attacking mid. He's accomplished in, but he's not natural in. I actually think it might be worth training him to play there. For his role, I'm going to train him to play shadow striker. The reason for doing this is his physicals are very lacking. Shadow striker is one of the best centre attacking mid roles to really address a lot of his physicals. I'd also quite like to get his strength up a little bit. Strength is definitely a physical that can be improved a hell of a lot. He's very young. Given the fact he can naturally play that more defensive midfielder role, there might be times where we want to deploy him deeper. 7 jumping reach, 9 strength. It'd be nice to improve those a little bit. And given the fact he is a younger player, that's definitely 2 areas of the game we can improve for him. Other players here, Pape Cech. Nothing too crazy going on with this guy. He looks actually very similar to Ndombele, where he's a great box-to-box midfielder with not the craziest shooting. So that's what we'll focus him into. Physically, he is superb. Jordan Ferry here, he is more of a playmaker-y kind of player. I think we'll train to play centre mid, box to box. Again, just kind of cover a wide variety. He might not necessarily play that much as a box to box midfielder, but it's just a really good role that covers, basically everything you could want from a variety of different centre mid positions. If you've got a player who, some games might play as a playmaker, might play as just a centre mid on support, might play as a ball winner, I feel like, especially at a younger age, box-to-box is one of the better, areas to train a player in. With McTominay here, I'm actually going to train to play defensive midfielder as a ball-winning midfielder. You can see here, as a ball-winning midfielder, McTominay isn't as crazy as you'd expect, and his marking is particularly lacking. So again, we're going to focus on defensive positioning for him. In terms of his intensity level, I'm going to set it to automatic. I do normally set it for automatic for all my players. That means that when we come to our training screen here, and then rest, it's based off this. Basically, you can set automatically when players will be rested and such to help their condition recover between matches. When my schedule does get a little more packed and I'm not rotating players, what I will very often do is rest players between matches. If you're playing a game on a Saturday and a game on a Wednesday, following the game on the Saturday, I will rest all the players who I need their condition to be recovering closer to 100 to minimise injury risk, just for a couple of days, just to make sure they're back in the 90% range for that following game. Aouar here is an interesting one because I could train him to play out on the left-hand side as an inside forward. I'm actually kind of tempted to do that as well, just because he's already, semi-accomplished there. This guy, though, very, very talented, could play lots of different areas of the pitch. Inside forward out on that on the left-hand side would be particularly good. If I'm not mistaken, I'm working on the assumption he's right-footed. Indeed, he is. Obviously, we've got some injuries in the wide area as well. And I feel like, actually, as an inside forward, he could definitely do a job longer term. His long shots aren't great, so we can definitely maybe train his shooting again. His finishing's a little lacking. His technique's already very good, but we could improve that further. I could train his strength a little bit, or his quickness. The more I look at it, actually, the more I think his quickness might be worth training at a younger age. Years down the line, maybe we can train his finishing a little bit more. Also, just quickness on the whole is just useful, I feel like, in all positions in FM, regardless of role. So we'll get him trained in that. Bertrand Traore is currently out injured, but we can still set up at least a starting point for him. It's going to be all about being an inside forward on the right-hand side. I like this guy a lot. His anticipation isn't the craziest, so maybe we could look at improving that through attacking movement. It would also help with his off-the-ball and his decision-making, which is a little lacking too. So that makes sense there. Marin here, very, very good player, versatile, already natural on the left-hand side. We'll train him to play out on the right. I'm going to train him as an inside forward over a winger, just because inside forward is a lot more kind of complete in terms of what it covers. Additionally, his stamina really isn't that great. So we'll train his endurance, which will help with his work rate too, which is only 11. That will definitely help him longer term as a player. Out on the wing, you need that stamina. You're going to be running around a lot. Fekir, what do we want to do with Fekir? I did talk about potentially training him to play centre mid on attack. I'm actually very tempted to do that. Maybe not on attack. Maybe we'll just train him as an advanced playmaker. I feel like the 5 tackling, which is his big weakness as a centre mid on attack, is never really going to be solved. At 24 years old, I'm not expecting crazy improvements from him, to be honest. But let's just make the most of what we can here. Additionally, given the fact he is going to be this big linchpin playmaker for us, I feel like putting a focus on passing could be great. If we could get his first touch passing and technique, to 18s, that would be putting him in kind of the world-class category as far as I'm concerned. He's already very, very good when it comes to his vision. He's already a very complete player, but he's a player who I feel like we could make even more of potentially in that passing kind of element of his game. Anyway, next player, Memphis Depay here. Obviously, inside forward on the left is where he's going to be playing for us. He's already natural in a load of different positions. He's pretty strong, to be honest, in all areas. His anticipation is a little weak. His off the ball could be a little better as well. So again, attacking movement, I think, is the go-to one here. Again, helps with his decisions. Attacking movement, to be honest, as an addition in the additional focuses this year is really, really huge. I always felt like if you had wingers with slightly potato mentals, particularly anticipation and decisions, it was always a bit tricky to improve them. So the fact there is now a focus that allows you to address kind of brain-dead wingers is pretty nice, because that was, as I said, something that was lacking. Terrier here, I really like the look of this guy a hell of a lot. Of course, he scored last game, which is great for us. He is going to be playing inside forward a lot, so that's where we'll train him to be. His finishing's not great, his long shots aren't great, and his technique, I mean, it's not bad, but it could be better, so I think a shooting focus for him is good. He's a very, very well-rounded player, to be honest. In a lot of ways, He's already natural at striker. He's the kind of player who could be worth just training to play complete forward on attack. Complete forward is a role I really, really like to train players in. Particularly young strikers, it just helps cover all kinds of areas of their game. Cornet could be another player where we train him to play complete forward. You can see it's a role that he has no comfortability with whatsoever, but it just covers such a wide variety of attributes. And when you've got a player like Cornet here who has a few gaps in his game as a striker, I mean, there's lots of 12s and 11s here that if they got to 13s and 14s, it would make a world of difference. As a complete forward, you cover just a lot of them, which is pretty nice. I think his composure's not the best. I'm trying to think what final third addresses. It does address the composure issue and also his decision making. So yeah, we'll go with final third additional focus for Kane alongside complete forward. And the last player here, Moussa Dembele, 22 years old, very, very good player. Most of the time in our current system, he'll be playing advanced forward. But again, I feel like it's worth just training him as a complete forward on attack. Helps a lot with just his all-round physicals, which are already very, very good. But you can see in terms of helping with his passing and vision as well, complete forward helps address that, which in our very kind of possession-dominated system could be useful. For his focus, we could go with attacking movement or we could go with final third. I think we'll go with... Do I want to go with final third? I don't necessarily feel like his vision needs to be much better. So with that in mind, I think we'll focus on attacking movement, really make the most of him as a more focused striker, whereas perhaps someone like Depay or Cornet, maybe Terrier, longer term can become that more complete forward for us. So anyway, that's our training setup, at least for now, in terms of players. In terms of the actual team schedules, to be honest, I usually just, use the presets here. I like the way it's tailored to your tactics that you have. I think that's a really nice way of doing things. I know, again, there's people who love to go into loads of detail. I feel like with the new updates to training this year in FM, you can kind of really full-on embrace them and do a load with them, and I've not really done that myself. Or you can kind of use the new stuff, such as mentoring and units, to get a little bit out of things, but without going into too much detail. I think we'll leave mentoring for maybe next episode, just to break things up a little bit and maybe play one more game here, maybe get a little bit more transfer business done. Gnabry is going to join us. That is a big transfer that I'm very, very happy to get in. Yes, he's injury prone. Yes. Do I want to delay this? It's a very low risk transfer, and I was sat in my head thinking, it makes no sense not to get him in, particularly with all the current injuries. Now, you know what? We'll bring him in. His wages are very low, so I was thinking if I brought in another wide player on a permanent basis, maybe then I wouldn't want Gnabry in. But in terms of only paying him £23,000 a week, there's no fee. I did set his squad status to first team player, so Bayern will be expecting him to play a little bit. But just as a bit of depth in an area where we have been hit pretty hard by injury to start the season, it makes a lot of sense. Montpellier want to loan Mbia. I mean, you can loan him if you cover his wages, but if you can't, then it's not really going to work. See, Mbia could just end up being an okay backup for us. What is £60,000 for the next year? 60,000 times 52. It's not like a crazy sum of money that we're going to have to actually pay for him. In some ways, it might be worth just keeping him as backup as much as he is horrifically overpaid. We'll offer him out for $1 million and just see if anyone comes in. But I don't want to be paying a massive chunk of his wages. Lenny Pintor here has had a few offers in for him. We may in a future episode as well go through and sort out our reserve training. I'm a bit conscious that we've done already a lot of training today alongside the match. So I want to kind of keep things moving. But yeah, Gnabry is a good little addition as far as I'm concerned. Is he counted as a non-EU player, or is it added in the player that it keeps automatically adding in? It has. I'm sorry, you Jumway, but you eat up a non-EU player spot that I probably might need in the first team. Gnabry, though, German international. Like the look of him a lot. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But, yeah, he's a particularly good addition. The only thing I'm a little concerned about here is the fact that we now don't have a striker on the bench. Now, obviously, all our attacking midfielders can play as a striker, but that does make me feel like we're a little lacking. Of course, when I looked at our team to start the year, I was like, oh, look at all the strikers we've got. But the issue I've got now is that all our strikers are now starting or are injured. So that crazy strength in depth means, well, it's great, but it means that I can never bring on a fresh-legged striker on off the bench. At least if I stick with the current lineup, which isn't necessarily ideal. But I feel calm now. I feel like that first result, it settled me in. 3 goals to none. I mean, it couldn't have been better. And transfer-wise, things are kind of happening, I guess. I mean, we've brought in Gnabry. Raphael's leaving. We've not actually got anyone coming in at the moment. And I'm sat on a fair whack of money here. I rejigged the budgets, didn't I? And I can kind of rejig them back now if I want to. In terms of the kind of money we've got to spend, we've probably got in the region of about 20 million to spend. I'm a little bit disappointed that the Trincao deal can't happen, in truth. What kind of strikers have we got who we've been scouting? Anyone who's crazy stand out other than Martinez? I mean, Martinez, we've still got the deal going in. Did we? We didn't withdraw. We did withdraw. Why did I withdraw from that? I was like, oh, he doesn't really fit the bill. To be fair, £50,000 does feel like a little bit too much for him. I did have some suggestions from the comment sections. Let's take a look at a few of these. Ziyech was a name that was recommended by some people. I've got up the comments on a second monitor so I can quickly look through some of these. See, Ziyech I do actually quite like the look of, but I don't know how much they're going to want for him, and he would probably eat up a lot of our remaining budget. I mean, we can get a scout report on him and see what people want. What's expected. There's a few people who were suggesting a few Romanian players. Now, usually I don't have that many Romanian players load into my game. But this year I have kind of changed my setup. So I force load the game to load all players in Europe. What that means is, although I've only got France loaded, I've got 50,000 players loaded. I've got all players playing in top division leagues in Europe. So there are a lot of the players that I wouldn't always see, actually showing up, which is kind of nice. There were a few different options that were kind of, suggested by people. I think Alberto Sorro was a player who a few people mentioned. Is he actually going to load here? Apparently not. Maybe I'm being trolled. Maybe I shouldn't pay too much attention to the chat. Ziyech was, though, a name that got mentioned a few times. I saw Bruno Fernandes get mentioned. I don't think we could even sign him. He costs way too much. I'm trying to think of go-to players of past FMs. Is Carlos Fierro available? I've not got America Force loaded, so I don't think we can go and get Carlos Fierro. Who was the other Mexican player? Was it Eric Torres? Who was the same generation? This guy was so sick back in the day. I kind of want to get a scout report on him and just see if he's any good. He actually looks like he wouldn't be a bad player for us necessarily. In some ways, I love the fact that there's just random names in my head that are just players people won't have heard of, that I'm like, yeah, I should go sign them. A bit like Trincao. On the other hand, it makes me feel a little bit sad. There's all this useful stuff and information that I should be remembering, and instead I'm remembering random Portuguese players who play for Braga. You can see here, Aouar's made some good progress out on the left wing, which is fine. Apparently he's making progress there. He will gradually forget what he's learnt about playing out on the right. That's fine. I think he's more likely to play out on the left for us, cutting in on his right foot. So I'm not too bothered if he becomes a bit more specialist in that winger position. You can see here, Terrier is making progress as a striker, but he's going to forget about what he's learnt about playing on the left wing. We'll monitor that, because I feel like training him as a complete forward is probably in our interest. But at the same time, there is going to be times where I lean on Martin here to play out on the left wing position. So with that in mind, I don't want him completely forgetting how to play it. Maybe if we're training him to play striker but also playing him out on the left, he can just retain it in the inner recesses of his memory somewhere. Right, let's have a look at the I've done that before. The recommended list here of players. This has kind of built up a little bit over time. I mean, someone like Dayot Upamecano would actually be a great centre-back option. He's a very good wonder kid. I feel like Leipzig aren't going to want to sell him, funnily enough. He has a minimum release clause of 90 million. It's a little bit scary. Yeah, I thought that was what was going to happen there. I wasn't too expectant. A few different players getting recommended to us. Of course, we've already brought in Gnabry. Zagadou is very good, but I don't really want to pay. I think when we offered for him before, I think Dortmund asked for like 40 million. Yeah, they did. Realistically, we're going to have to pay in the region of probably 25 million for him, which is just a little too much. This guy here, Mikhail, is very good, but he's very similar to players we've already got, which is a little bit of a shame. There's a few players here, but there's no one who is catching my eye and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to sign this player at all costs. I think we can actually clear all there. I don't feel like of that list of players that we've let kind of build up, there's any that I'm super excited about. I'm still pretty disappointed that we missed out on Origi. We could go for Jean-Kevin Augustin. He's a very good player this year in FM. He's considered inconsistent, which is a bit of a shame. I wouldn't want to loan him though. And that is going to be a problem. We've got money to spend. I don't really want to loan players when I can just sign some. The only issue really is that we might be, well, hunting around for a little while to find players who can tick the bill. Of course, we've got all our scouts out on assignment, so I'm hoping that they're going to throw some players my way. Otherwise, it might be a case of doing some manual searching around trying to pick up some players. I mean, thus far, I'm reasonably happy with the transfer business that we've done. I feel like I was panicking a little unnecessarily previously. I feel like when you actually look at our squad now, the injuries are a little annoying, and the fact Lopez is actually suspended for another game is a little bit annoying. But I don't know, with the addition of Gnabry, when we don't have quite such an injury issue at the attacking midfielder positions, I feel like the strength in depth there is actually going to be more than adequate, which is good news as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if there's any positions I'm desperate to sort out at this point. I feel like it's a case of maybe just waiting to see if the right player shows up. I did think about signing the Serbian centre-back Markovic, who I featured in my top 10 Wonder Kids video. I do really, really rate him this year. I mean, let's get a scout report on him. You can get him for reasonably cheap. He would be a good backup player. He's not in a dissimilar league to Mbia. It's just a case of, with me already signing Marin, do I want to sign another one of my kind of players that I featured in my best Wonder Kids list, really? I mean, at the same time, I don't manage that many big clubs normally in FM, so this might be the only chance I get to use him all year. Besides, obviously, the beta save we did previously with Leverkusen. No one wants Mbia. What if we offer to pay a little bit of his wages? I think someone said 10k might help me get rid of him. I'll pay 10k of his wages, but I want £1 million. Does anyone want him? We could be offering him out for the next 2 weeks and he just doesn't go anywhere. That is the unfortunate reality of a player on just a crazily large contract that teams don't really want to touch with a barge pole. It's also a little upsetting to see our scout continuing to scout Almiron and tell me about how great he is. Obviously, that assignment was started prior to the start of the year. Amiens have made a bid. They want me to pay £32,000 of his wages. I mean, I'd rather keep him as a backup in our team than pay half of his current wages following his sale. I could offer him a mutual termination, I guess. Or maybe ask... I guess we could... I haven't yet asked him to talk around. Interaction. Worn player. Is it worn player? What's the thing? I want him to basically force leave the team himself. Right, let's just try transfer listing him. Again, 10k. I'm locking it in. Maybe they'll come back and offer him in. Right, scout to the players here. We've already looked at you. Lafont, I really rate. Obviously, recently signed for Fiorentina in real life, so that's not going to be a realistic one. Mateta, I like, but he's just signed for Mainz in real life, so we're not going to be able to get him in. Teo Hernandez has crazy wages. I mean, I'm hoping there's going to be one standout player here where I go, yes, he's the man for me. Unfortunately, Zagadou looks like that standout player, but I don't really want to pay for him. There is Kamara, who's on loan from Marseille. Now, Marseille are, of course, our rivals, so it might not go down super well signing one of their best young prospects. But that estimated cost is kind of appealing to me, I'm not going to lie. Zaidou Youssef of Bordeaux looks pretty solid actually as a centre mid. We will get a follow-up scout report on you, my friend. I've never heard of him. I love it when you get players you've never heard of who kind of get thrown up and you think, you could be good. bit like this guy, to be honest. Jean-Claire Todibo. I mean, it's a great name, isn't it? Could he be a longer term, option at that ball winning midfielder role for us? Potentially. Let's get a follow-up scout report on him. He looks like he could be a good kind of ball winner longer term. I mean, these recommended... I've done it again. Can we just make recommended a word? Moussa Silla, 18 years young, plays for Monaco. Fairly hotly rated. Could be a good player to have as kind of one of our backup strikers. They reckon he'll cost between 3 and 6 million. I wonder if I can make an offer where it's like 2.5 million up front and then 2.5 million after he plays 20 games for France or something. And then I'm going to remove and exclude the profit of next sell-on clause. 3.5 million. I mean, at 4 million, it wouldn't be an awful deal as far as I'm concerned. 4.5 million rising to 2 million extra if he plays 20 games for France. I mean, he looks pretty well rounded and he is only 18. He could be that kind of good young backup striker. I know that we do have a very, very good striker actually in our kind of reserves in, where are you? Guiri, but he is out for 6 to 7 months. I mean, how does Silla here compare? There's not a world of difference between them. In some ways, they could complement each other quite nicely. Two players of a very similar generation will probably end up playing alongside each other at French youth level. I guess with Willem here, being at Monaco, they're not too concerned about holding on to both of them. Could we sign Willem? He just signed for 18 million. That's not going to happen. They're not going to sell him within my budget, I don't think. Of course, these players that are getting thrown up here are all players that we mass scouted as a part of our scouting of the French under-21 setup. Aouar here has been doing good in training. Well done, my son. We'll give him a little bit of praise. I will say, the kind of training report updates is one of my favourite additions this year in FM. It's such a small little thing, but just giving players training ratings is nice. Hopefully, with a little bit of praise and obviously our training setup as it is, we're going to see some good improvements. It's good to see the likes of Maxi Boy here and also Aouar and also Terrier immediately seeing some improvements. I'm sure this isn't spurred on by our changes that we did directly, but it's still kind of nice to see. In terms of Moussa Silla, his wage demands are thought to be somewhere in the region of 20 million. That would be a little excessive, £20,000. That's kind of in line with what we're looking at if we just compare him to Terrier, who is on... How much are you on? You're on 19 grand. Slightly better is Terrier. So maybe I don't want to go quite as high, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to. Yowza. Those are some big wage rises, my friend, that you're expecting, that I do not know if I can necessarily match. I'll give you a slightly higher signing on fee to please your agent. Okay, well that deal ain't happening, at least not right now. Wage is just a little more than I was willing to pay, to be honest. As much as it's annoying for the deal to fall through like that. It's one of those things. I'm going to ask Mbia to talk to clubs. Get someone to bid on you or something, please. I mean, could we just offer him mutual termination? Do you want to leave? He agrees. He wants 2.3 million to mutually terminate it. That'd be deducted from the transfer budget. That does not seem like a good deal. I mean, if I'd like to be paid £2.3 million to bugger off too, to be fair, if I knew I was somewhere where I wasn't wanted. So I can't really knock his effort to try, but at that kind of money, it's almost just worth keeping him in the team. Mangala has gone to AC Milan on loan. Of course, he declined us, which did hurt a little bit. Not going to lie. Malang Sarr. He looks pretty good as a player. He's 19. Plays for Nice. Also started for them in their first game of the year. He's a centre-back who can play left-back. He looks pretty good. Potential's not crazy, but he's consistent, which immediately jumps out at me. So we'll get a follow-up scout report. Kanate, who's the player we tried to buy and then the deal fell through. You might remember that happening because I kind of screwed it up. What do our scouts say? Between 6 and 12 million? Let's see if that's actually the case. I'm going to offer them 8.5 and then 10% of the profit of the next sale. They deem that offer unacceptable. He's on loan anyway, so I don't think we'll be able to sign him. Thomas Basila of Nantes. Looks good, not great. Underwhelmed for what my scout said about him. Scout report on Martinez finished because we just cancelled the agreement with Martinez, and I kind of wonder if I should have signed him now. Could we go back in for him? I feel like he might not even want to talk to us. The irony being that I started the episode cancelling the offer for Martinez. I'm ending it, putting in the offer and going grovelling back to him. Still though, I really don't want to be paying more than £50,000 £50,000 for him in terms of wages. I'm going to play hardball here. I'm getting weird deja vu, folks, from last episode, because I think this is the exact same contract that I negotiated last time. Just looking at Martinez here, he's a very, very good striker, consistent and enjoys important matches. And at, well, £6 million plus some clauses taking it to nearer 10 million. It doesn't seem like necessarily the worst deal in the world given our current striking woes. Right, in terms of team for today's game, I don't even know if I really want to change things. We had a really good performance last time out. Everyone performed well, with the exception, I guess, of Cornet, who did come on. Did he come on off the bench? Of course he did. He came on off the bench for Traoré, who got injured. I could play Gnabry, but he is lacking a little bit of match fitness, so I'd like to bed him into the team slowly. Also, it gives Cornet just a chance to show us what he's all about. Perhaps didn't get a fair chance last time. Gnabry's preferred number is number 11. We don't have... You can have 25. It's close to 11, kind of. Right, let's get into this. Playing a Rem. This will be the last thing we do in today's episode, because we're going to be coming up to another hour-long episode today. I said kind of when I started this in my head, right, between 20 minutes to an hour is kind of where I want to be with this series. Sometimes we will just do slightly shorter ones. Some people have been asking actually about upload schedule with this. Of course, it's been daily all of this week. I don't know if I'll necessarily maintain that, especially at weekends. I think during the week that's not unfathomable, although I am going to be working on a few other bits and bobs alongside this save. But in terms of kind of schedule, I don't want to upload too quickly with this, which is kind of ironic given the fact this is the 4th video in 4 days. Just because with the episodes being longer, I want to give you guys a chance to binge watch, catch up on them. But as I mentioned at the start, really, really happy with how things have been received. I'm really happy with how things are going on the pitch. Nabil Fekir, first goal of the season for him. Cool, calm, collected, slotted it home. We started the game the better of the two teams. It was our second half chance of the game. Cornet involved in it, which is great. Bit of a 50-50 tackle that he kind of comes out better in. Ball pings around a little bit. Dembele dispossessed by Conan, but it fell into the path of Fekir, who finished it delightfully. Perfect start. Away from home, always going to be a little bit tricky, but Rem here, a team who I expect us to beat. As a result, I'm not going to play. Obviously, we would have the options, play our more conservative kind of defensive midfielder position. This is the kind of formation we might play against I feel like top 6 teams away from home, with the exception of maybe the likes of PSG and Monaco, where I might be more inclined to play on the counter. Also in Europe, I think playing with 3 centre mids could be good to just ensure we do win that midfield battle. And we, well, in the words of our assistant in FM and yours and every assistant ever, don't get overrun in midfield. Anyway, Cornet here, really nice run up. Tete on a booking, a little bit worried about that, but it's okay. Terrier. I mean, it was a chance on the half volley. He hit it well, almost too well in many ways. Flies over the crossbar and away to safety. Half-time approaching. Looks like it's just going to be 1-0 here, but we have been the better team in control of this game. Not necessarily having a crazy amount of possession, but we have looked relatively solid, I think it would be fair to say, thus far in this game. In terms of what I'm going to tell the players, you've played well. Room for improvement though. I don't want to let complacency creep in. One change I'm going to do, just to experiment a little bit, is I'm going to change Fekir for this half to an advanced playmaker on support, and then tell Terrier to play on attacking and Cornet to play on attacking. I just want to experiment with this as perhaps an alternate way that we could set up this centre mid setup in games where we want to maybe attack the fullbacks, which might be weak links against teams, or fullbacks from bookings, like Fockett is, just switching the inside forwards to play an attack might just apply a bit more pressure high up the pitch on them and work in our favour. I'm hoping it won't upset the balance of the team too much, and particularly against Rem, who are playing this narrower 4-1-2-1-2. Having the inside forwards wider is probably going to help us as Martin Terrier slots it home. Second goal of the season for him. I mean, hashtag who is Depay is already trending. But yes, I noticed these guys, they're playing this narrow 4-1-2-1-2 without wide midfielders. As a result, I don't feel as bad leaving our wing-backs exposed with our inside forwards playing higher up the pitch. So that was kind of another motivating factor behind changing things there, and it's immediately worked out. Just going to shout and demand more from the players. We've got a few players on bookings, a few more than I'd like. Let's make some changes. I'm going to bring in Aouar for... I was going to bring him in for Fekir, but I'm actually not. I'm going to bring him in for Ndombele, and then I think we'll bring in Pape Cech to play that ball-in midfielder role. I could bring in McTominay, but I'd rather bring in one of our own players, of course. Cech here, not necessarily the craziest ball winner, but he can do a job for us. I think we'll bring on Gnabry as well for Cornet. Cornet had a good game, mind you, but well, we need to get a little bit of match fitness for Gnabry, and giving him 15 minutes is probably a nice way just to bed him into the team without rushing him in too much. But it's looking like a very good, solid performance again from us here. I'm hoping that we're going to just not concede now in the last few minutes, as they are going to have a man sent off. But no, I'm hoping now we can hold on for a clean sheet, because 2 clean sheets to start the season would be great. We're not having any issues scoring. And it makes me feel like tactically we're not going to need too many tweaks, at least to this system right now. Obviously, we've not really been truly tested yet, but well, we couldn't have done much better than to win our first 2 games without conceding a goal and scoring multiple goals in each. And well, you can see here, top of the league, we're having a laugh. Terrier, man of the match. Man of the match. I mean, maybe we don't need to worry about the wide area. I was talking about maybe getting in another player. Maybe we don't necessarily need it. It's pretty good. You can see that was Cornet's 100th game for the club, which is crazy for a 21-year-old to have played that many league games. Has been a regular of the first team. Not had the best time under us thus far, but plenty of time, obviously, for him to come through and improve. Anyway, I think that's where we'll end things for today. We've got some transfer budget going. We've got Martinez potentially coming in. I feel like that deal is very likely to happen. I almost want to continue and see if it happens, but I feel like we'll leave that as a tantalising prospect for next time out. I just think in terms of getting him in, he'd be a very good striker for us to get in. We don't have too many natural out-and-out strikers in the same way that Dembele is. Obviously, Cornet can play striker, as can Martin Terrier to an extent, but their attacking isn't the craziest. You know, Cornet's very quick. Terrier, a little bit better kind of attacking-wise, although his finishing is a little lacking. I feel like in Martinez we'd have another goal scorer, kind of out and out, and well, a real natural at our disposal. Would count as a non-EU player, but at least I assume he'd count as a non-EU player. I'm now thinking, how long did he spend in Italy? Not long enough, apparently, or in Switzerland for that matter. Why couldn't he stay there for a tiny bit longer? Yeah, you can see actually you need to stay in Switzerland for 10 years to gain nationality, so that would not have worked out anyway. But I do think he could be a pretty good addition to the team, and the fact he can play left attacking mid, again, it just helps with the inside forward dilemma. It gives us lots of coverage and flexibility in terms of how we set up our more attacking minded players. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here from me today. Let me know, would you sign Martinez? Obviously, I've cancelled the deal once. We've gone back in for him. Mercifully, he is still willing to join us. I do think he'd be a pretty good addition, and for the kind of fee he's commanding, £6 million, it's not too out of our budget, and we still would have a fair bit of money to bring in maybe 1 or 2 more players too. But yeah, that's all from me today. Leave a like, as I said, if you've enjoyed. Just under an hour long. Enjoy the rest of your day. Obviously, catch up on the series and the other content on the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. It is me, Jack, and I'm out.